It is Tuesday, January 13th. This is the Christian Commute. I am your host, Seth Dunn, and you're riding home with me. And you might be wondering, why was there no Christian Commute on Friday? Or why was there no Christian Commute on Thursday? I don't remember why there wasn't one on Thursday. I think a lot's happened. And I'm very upset today. But I think Thursday was a matter of... Oh, I know what it was. We had a basketball game at 8. I think it was at 8. And it was month-end close and year-end close at my office. And it's like, even if I didn't have a basketball game at 8, I don't need to spend an hour driving to Dalton and another hour driving back today. I'm too busy. So I worked from home that day because I was terribly busy. And Friday, I intrepidly made my way to work because I got a lot of work done on Thursday from staying at home and working a lot. And right about when I got to the unincorporated Bartow County exit, you know, the exit that I don't like, Cass White Road. Right before then, I noticed my tire pressure light was on. So I said, I'll stop at my friend's truck stop, blow up my tire with his air compressor that they have at the gas station, and say hi to my friend. Well, the air compressor was broken. My friend had gotten fired and didn't tell me. And my tire was irreparable. So I had to call a tow truck to come get me. And it was an absolute disaster with my insurance company and the people they chose to handle the tow truck. So I just said, you know what, I'm not going to work today. So I took the day off and had my wife come get me and had the eventual service provider, tow truck person, come and tow my car to the Honda dealership. They sell tires $5 over cost there, if you ask. And I needed new tires in the back anyway. No, wait. Come think of it. I needed new tires in the front, and it was the back one that shredded or whatever went wrong with it. I don't know. But it was pretty well destroyed. So that's that, and that's why there was no show on Thursday and Friday. So here I am on Tuesday, just hoping I'll have more than one show. But we'll see. I think this is the only podcast where car trouble shuts it down. This is the Christian Commute. It takes place in a car. So, what was that, $800 later? Here I am. I have a full show for you. I think I have, after this, 2 more questions in the inbox. Aaron from Texas, I'm pretty sure, has one in there. And then Daryl from Ohio has one in there. This question's about the wise men. I would say the 3 wise men, but that's the nature of the question. Today's show topic is American Theology X. And it's about all these post-mill Twitter people. American Theology X. American Theology X. And as always, we have the Bible chapter review. But first, ycrosspoint.com, yrockbridge.com, ynorthpoint.com. No, it's ynorthpoint.org, yelevation.com, the Y Project, seeker-sensitive Ayatollah of rock and rolla goat churches. Support the Y Project on Patreon or send me money. Do it through PayPal. I don't care. Help me pay for the websites to tell people about these. Hold on. Let me do it right. Seeker-sensitive Ayatollah of rock and rolla coffee bar goat churches in Purple Haze, pastored by Pastor Electric Blue. All these hip places with their multi-campus. The Why Project exists to ask people, why do you go to these rock and roll show businesses that claim to be churches? Why do you do that? Why do you take your family there? Stop it. Stop doing it. We're going to inform those people. Just this Sunday, one of the local Y churches, Cross Point, opened a new campus. They have a campus in Cartersville. That's exit 288. They have a campus in Adairsville. It was one of their first campuses that they opened. That's exit, what is Adairsville? Is Adairsville 306? Adairsville, I think, is 306. If you're doing the math, that's 18 miles away in the same county. All right? And now they've opened a new campus on Cass White Road, which is in between the exits I just told you about. And they opened it at an elementary school. By the way, Cass White Road is the very road I don't like. That's all sketchy, with the pornography shop and truck stops, where I stopped to get my tire fixed, and it did not work out for me. But yeah, they think they need another campus. So if you want to not have a pastor preach in front of you and go to church in elementary school with a rock and roll show, there's a new place to go in Bartow County. So don't forget to support the Y Project. I wonder if Rockbridge is expanded in a while, or Elevation, or North Point. Ugh. So don't forget to support the Y Project. The biggest way to support it is to make a Y Project website about one of these seeker-sensitive Ayatollah of rock and rolla coffee bar goat churches. And the Purple Haze up in my brain, pastored by Pastor Electric Blue. How is your church so cool? I want to preach like you. So that's that. Let's get to the Bible chapter review. Luke chapter 11, verses 5 through 8. We're talking about asking God for things. Saying they'll teach us how to pray, the Lord's Prayer, and approaching God with our requests. Jesus is going to give the famous Ask, Seek, Not commentary, Lord willing, in the next show. We'll get to that. But he prefaces this with, I don't know if it's a parable. It's not really a parable, because he's not telling us the story that happened. He's like, hey, think about this. He said to them, suppose one of you has a friend and goes to him at midnight and says to him, friend, lend me 3 loaves. For a friend of mine has come to me from a journey, and I have nothing to set before him. And from inside he answers and says, do not bother me. The door has already been shut, and my children are in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything. I tell you, even though he will not give up and get him anything because he is his friend, yet because of his persistence, he will get up and give him as much as he needs. For thousands of years, it has been ingrained in society that if somebody comes to your house and they need a place to stay, you're having a friend over, you better have something for them. It's rude. It's an affront not to have something for the person who comes to stay at your house. If they get in late, they're going to wake up to some breakfast, right? I don't know if I've told part of this story before. I think I have. In 2008, or was it 2009? First time Nick Saban's Alabama won a national championship. My brother and sister-in-law and me, myself and I, my brother, sister-in-law and I, yes, because that's the subject, went to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And my sister-in-law knew a friend from college who lived in Pasadena and he could give us a place to stay. Okay. This guy lived a very Spartan lifestyle. He was a solitary homosexual male. He barely had any furniture. And what would he have a need of furniture? He didn't have a family. So it's some gay dude living alone with 2 dogs like you'd expect a gay dude to have. All right. The guy basically had a bed in his bedroom. He didn't have a couch or furniture in his other bedroom. Like, we packed up air mattresses to sleep on. We went and borrowed one from one of my sister-in-law's friend. Okay, and so we had 2. One for me and one for my brother and sister-in-law. They slept in a spare bedroom that didn't have a bed. And then I slept in the living room on an air mattress. Not on the couch, because he didn't have one. Okay? This guy literally didn't have any furniture. And I could not imagine anyone more different from me than a Spartan homosexual in California. I'm a Christian, he's a homosexual. I'm from the South, he's from California. Okay? Pasadena feels like a foreign country to me. Hollyweird does too. But I'm going to tell you, even in that far country, the man who was hosting his friends had something for us when we got there. And listen, this man's refrigerator was empty. He didn't have any food. He wasn't poor. He had a job. He just didn't have anything. It's just how he lived. Okay? And when we got there, we said, oh, hey, pleasantries. You know, I didn't know him. My brother didn't know him. My sister-in-law did. It was her friend from college. And he goes, he says, oh, I got you guys some beer. Now, me and my brother, we don't drink beer. I don't drink at all. My brother drinks whiskey, even though he wasn't raised to. Great to our family's great shame. But we don't drink beer. Like, you got 2 Baptist raised Southern boys coming. Oh, we don't drink beer. But he didn't know that. And he got us some beer for the end of our journey because he was considerate, because you have to have something for somebody. Okay? So Jesus is using this example that's relatable now, and it's going to be super relatable then, because there was no Hampton Inn with a continental breakfast. There was no Kroger that's open 24 hours a day when you can go buy your friend food. It is an utter emergency to not have anything for a guest. And it's also super rude to go to somebody's house, your friend's house, and say, hey, let me borrow some stuff. My friend's come from a journey, I got nothing for him. Totally acceptable to do this in the daylight. But to go in the dark, because they didn't have light bulbs back then. You understand this? You gotta feel around your house in the dark. What, are you gonna light a candle or light a lantern? And remember, they didn't have like separate bedrooms. Like, my kids are all asleep in some bunk bed in some other room. You gotta walk over your sleeping children. So you just wouldn't go to your friend's house and say, hey, I need you to do me this favor. No, I'm not getting up. I've shut my door. It's late. Go away. I've put my nighttime clothes on. Does anybody else, when you put your nighttime clothes on, you're done going, I've got my daytime clothes that I went to work in. When I get home and take these off, I'm going to put on athletic shorts or PJ pants. Don't ask me to go out and do anything. Especially when I get into bed. When I get into bed, I've brushed my teeth, I've taken my shower, I've eaten, I've done whatever. They call it if it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Once I get into bed, do not ask me to get up. My wife's like, did you remember to lock the door? No, I'm in bed. And I don't care if ruffians bust the door down, kill us, and burn the house down. I'm in bed. Could you go downstairs and pick this up? No, I'm in bed. I'm not doing it. I have mentally checked out for the day. I'm not getting up. I'm in bed. All right? And how does my wife get me to do the thing I don't want to do? Through persistence. And this is what Jesus says here. He says, the guy's not going to open up and give you the bread because he's your friend. Probably in the daytime you would have. The guy's not, just because he's your friend, he's not doing you this favor. You're in the wrong. But even though you're in the wrong, you're kind of annoying. You must have needed it really bad, think about this, to do such a faux pas, to be so rude to your friend as to come over to his house at midnight and ask for guest bread when you didn't plan and you weren't ready, and now you're going to wake him and his kids up to borrow some bread from him. He's not doing this because you're his buddy. He's doing this to make you go away. It's a matter of persistence. And Jesus is saying you got to be persistent and ask. If you shy away from praying for what you need, how are you ever going to get it? The first thing you got to do is ask. And you know, Jesus elsewhere in Scripture talks about the persistent widow. I think she hounds her landlord over and over. Your friend's going to give up and give you as much as you need for the persistence. And with that, we'll end the Bible chapter review. And wherever you are, sister-in-law's homosexual friend, I think his name was Jeremy, but I don't remember. Thank you for your hospitality. That was, by the way, one of the most miserable nights in my life, because I was going to California and I only packed like a windbreaker, a Gore windstopper jacket. And I had like a thin blanket, because this poor dude, he didn't have a closet full of comforters. Like, you know, you go to your mom's house, or guys, if you come to my house and say, Seth, I'm cold, I need a blanket, I'm like, I got you. I have an entire closet that's just nothing but blankets. I love blankets. They're everywhere in my house. He didn't have central air in his house in California. Because, listen, there's houses out there that don't, or central heat. There's houses out there that don't have it. Because it doesn't get cold enough to have it. It's Southern California. It was cold enough that night. And I took the heaters from his dogs. They looked like they had enough fur. They could keep each other warm. I was shivering. One of the most miserable nights of my life. Lesson learned, pack a blanket. Anyway, we didn't even go to the game. Tickets were $300. We watched it down. Don't get over on me, FedEx truck. We watched it downtown in a bar. Alabama won. Roll Tide, praise the Lord. But I've always said, I mean, I should have known I'd eventually get a job. What am I was 25 years old. I forget how old I was. 2018. I guess I can do the math. No, 2008. It's 2008 or 2. That's 2009. I'm pretty sure. I was born in 1982. So I was like 25 or 26 years old. What, am I never going to have a job again? Was $300 going to kill me? No. I have hundreds and hundreds of dollars now. I would give them to have been at that game. Listen, that's just free life advice. That's not from the Bible. Let's go to a question somebody actually asked. This is Monica from Cartersville again. How old was Jesus when the wise men came, and how many of them were there? Oh, Monica. Do directions mean nothing to you? It's one question. One question per inbox submission. I'm going to answer it anyway because you're my friend. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But what we can be certain of is that the classic nativity scene with the wise men kneeling to Jesus in the manger, presenting them their 3 gifts, that's not what happened in the Bible. It's sort of a amalgamation, conflagration. I'm sure, what's that guy? I'm sure Michael Lacona has a name for this. Compression. I think he calls it compression. By the way, don't listen to Michael Lacona. Matthew talks about Jesus being born in the stable and shepherds being there. The angels tell the shepherds, and the shepherds go to see him. That part of the manger scene is legit. So what do you have in a nativity scene? All right, and we're just gonna table the question whether it's a second commandment violation. All right, you got in a nativity scene, you got a baby Jesus in a manger. He probably has some hay around him. Then you got a Mary and Joseph, and they're usually Mary's kneeling by the baby, and Joseph is standing behind her. Maybe he's kneeling too. Then you have some shepherds that have come. Then you have some farm animals, probably a sheep or a cow, maybe a little drummer boy. And then you have some wise men. And the wise men, typically in a nativity scene, in little sculptures, they have their gold, frankincense, and myrrh that they're given to baby Jesus. Sometimes a nativity scene has angels. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. So Matthew tells us about the shepherds. Luke tells us the story about the wise men. They say, hey, we've seen the star. We've come to worship the king because we saw his star. They come to Herod. Herod says, oh, yeah, well, you let me know when you find him because I want to worship him. And then the wise men are warned by an angel, don't go back to Herod because he wants to kill Jesus. So they leave by another route. The wise men are from the east. Okay, and they didn't have Turkish Airlines back then. Okay, so when they saw the star, it would have taken them a while to get to Jesus. And he was not, listen, he was only a little newborn baby placed in a manger for when he was born. Like after that, they found a different place to stay. Okay, and the Greek words parse that out. You know, oh, you're talking about a baby versus a young child. And you're talking about a house versus a stable or wherever. So nobody knows how old Jesus was. You guess between a couple months old and 2 years old. Because remember, Herod wants to kill all the babies 2 years old and younger. And we don't know how long it took him to get there. So we would guess maybe he was 2, maybe he was 1, nobody knows. And the reason people say that there are 3 wise men is because there's 3 gifts. It never says how many wise men there are. Could have been 10. Who knows how many were in their traveling party. But the assumption is that there's 3 of them because one guy has gold, one guy has myrrh, and one guy has frankincense. That's the assumption. I mean, what kind of jerk of a wise man would go to worship a king empty-handed? Even a drummer boy knows he's supposed to have a gift that's for a king. Little drummer boy wasn't there either. That's not in the Bible. Said the king to the people everywhere, I'm gonna kill this kid. That's what the king said, King Herod. So I don't know, nobody knows. It's one of those things you grow up with your life and you just assume it from the manger scene. You're like, wait a minute, that's not how it happened. I think the people who started the tradition of the nativity sets know that. They're just trying to present a story. But I don't know, Monica, maybe if you're in the business of giving nativity sits to children in Sunday school at Christmas time, maybe you should get one that gets the story right. So here's what you should do. You should put the wise men on camels at Christmas time and set them up across the room from wherever the manger is. And then you'll have a biblically right nativity scene. All right, let's go to American Theology X. When I was a freshman in college at Georgia Southern University, they made you take a class called like orientation. There's orientation 1 and orientation 2. Everybody had to take them. It was a requirement of graduation. I don't know. When I walked into orientation 2, the professor was assigning books about like Malcolm X or somebody, and Nelson Mandela, and I didn't know what black liberation theology was, and I didn't know what wokeness was, but this professor was trying to orient me to the struggle. I dropped that class. I didn't want anything to do with it. But the first class, this class is just propaganda from whoever. The first class, we had some guy, just some young dude, and he goes, we're going to watch 5 movies, and we're going to write about them. That was the orientation class. The first movie was A Simple Plan, and that's Billy Bob Thornton's in that, and the guy from Alien, who goes, oh man, it's game over, man. Is that Bill Paxton? It was Bill Paxton's in that movie. And it's about guys who find loot that had been stolen a long time ago, and it ruins their lives. Simple Plan. One of the movies we watched was American History X, and I don't remember the other 3. So much for the autistic memory. Maybe it was because the class was at 8 o'clock in the morning. One of the less than 3 classes or workshops I ever took in my entire college career. On-campus career, I should say, at 3 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, what are you talking about? You want me to wake up from my dorm room after playing Nintendo all night and walk across? Ugh. I remember American History X because it's a good movie. But at the very end, the guy tells us why we watch the movies. He is the director or administrator of the Campus Presbyterian group. I didn't even know what Presbyterian believed back then. I'm 18 years old. I didn't know what Mom was like. They believe in predestination. What's that? And he picked movies to demonstrate tulip to us. Simple Plan was supposed to demonstrate total depravity. And I think American History X was Irresistible Grace, because the Avery Brooks character, the character played by Avery Brooks, gives grace to Derek Vineyard, the skinhead played by Edward Norton. So in American History X, spoiler alert, there is a young man who lives in Southern California. I forget which town, so much for the autistic memory, but it's the same place that Hulk Hogan is billed from. Venice Beach, there we go. And he's a regular run-of-the-mill teenager, smart kid. His dad's a fireman. And then his dad is killed by drug addicts and meth heads when he goes to put a fire out in like a meth house or a crack house. And he has a teacher who's trying to get him to read black literature, and his dad's like, hey, don't buy into all that stuff. Affirmative action means that they'll hire a black firefighter who's more qualified over a white firefighter, and that guy's responsible to save my life if there's trouble. So read the book Ace the Test, but don't buy into it. The dad is played by the dad from Boy Meets World. Anyway, Derek Vineyard, played by Edward Norton, after his dad is killed, he gets disillusioned and feels disenfranchised as a young white youth in a urbanized, crime-ridden part of the country with affirmative action. So he becomes a skinhead. And he becomes a youth skinhead leader All the other skinheads look up to him. And he's a true believer in white power and white superiority. Don't do drugs, live a square-edged life, okay? And he's trying to support his family with his job at the, he works at Jiffy Lube or somewhere like that, or like a tire change place. Because his father can't. And he's got a younger brother, and his younger brother looks up to him like a hero. So the younger brother, played by Edward Furlong, becomes a skinhead too. And his mother brings home a Jewish date one day, and Derek gets really mad, and he blows up about it. He tells the Jewish guy to go away. His mom kicks him out. Well, that very night, some black youths, it's implied that they're members of a gang, come to Derek's house to try and vandalize it and steal his car. And his skinhead girlfriend is with him. And his little brother says, "Hey, Derek, they're trying to steal your car." It's actually a pickup truck that his father gave him. So he gets his gun, he goes out there and he starts shooting them. And he's fighting them and runs them off. And he catches one of them and he executes the dude on the sidewalk. He kills him. So he goes to jail for manslaughter. And in jail, he's got tattoos and stuff. He's clearly a skinhead. So the blacks are going to kill him in jail if he doesn't get protection from the other white power people real fast. I'm going somewhere with this long explanation of a movie. Well, he gets disillusioned in jail because the head skinhead, Mitch, doesn't really believe in white power. He's friends with the black and Hispanic gang leaders. And he buys drugs for them and sells it to the whites. And Derek, the idealist, brings this up with the other skinheads. So they make him drop the soap in the shower, if you get what I'm saying. So he rejects the skinheads. And he figures the black guys are going to kill him, but they don't. And the reason that they don't is because Derek's friend from his job detail is black, and he tells the black guys not to do it. So Derek made friends with a black guy working in folding laundry with him because they work together every day. And the black guy told the other blacks, "Don't kill Derek." And his college teacher, Mr. Sweeney, comes and speaks for him to get out on parole. And when Derek gets out on parole, he's a skinhead hero. They all want him back. And now he's got to get his brother out of being a skinhead. And the head adult skinhead leader, whose name is Cam, is wanting Derek to come back in the fold, but Derek ends up getting a fight with him. And Derek finds out about Cam, and he says, "Listen, Cam, you never really did any time. You rolled over on your accomplices who were kids." And what Derek figures out about Cameron is he doesn't really care about white power and white nationalism and being a neo-Nazi. All he cares about is being a leader of disaffected people who can be easily influenced. Just like Mitch in prison, Cameron in the white power hierarchy is not a true believer. He just takes advantage of people. Disaffected young men. That Cameron character is played by Stacy Keach. And guess, you know who that is in real life, by way of analogy? Joel Webbon. The Ogden guys. You see the Twitter Ogden guys? Suave and Eric Kahn. All right? The Christian nationalist crowd. People think these guys are true believers. No, they're Twitter entrepreneurs who make gas station churches so they can be a pastor on paper, and then they get on Twitter and say bombastic things to attract disaffected, conservative young white males to their cause of anti-Semitic Christian nationalism. I got to pause. The VP is calling me. All right, I've talked to the VP. So you got all these guys who pop up on Twitter and say bombastic things. And let's just use Joel Webbon as an example. All right. Jordan Hall used to talk about people who traded doctrines like Pokemon cards. Like people who thought it's cool to be reformed, so I'm going to be reformed now and get in the reformed pub and follow Joe Thorne. I might do a show later about how Joe Thorne has a homosexual daughter, and she got homosexual, quote unquote, gay married, and he went to the wedding. But that's another thing. Back before Jordan was partnering with Joel Webbon, he saw these people for what they are, people who wanted to trade doctrines like Pokemon cards. So you look at Joel Webbon and his gas station church website, and it says, we believe in the 1689. And Joel Webbon, you look at him and he'll say, oh, I'm a post-mill theonomist. Now let's turn back the clock. Doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo. We're going back in time. Joel Webbon was raised Pentecostal. And the first church he planted through the Vineyard movement, Right Response Church, or The Response Church, which is a precursor to his Right Response Ministries, was out of the Vineyard. And the Vineyard is anything but Reformed. The Vineyard is Pentecostal. But from the start, you can tell Response Church, Right Response Ministries, his real interest was politics and building a political following. The gas station church, he said at that time, the church was just a glorified Bible study. All right? Church in name only, Sino, Kano, whatever. But who's disaffected right now? Okay? Let's think about this. With all the critical race theory and wokeness out there in government, okay? Hollywood is foisting smutty entertainment upon us and influencing the young people. Who runs Hollywood? What do they say? Well, it's the Jews run Hollywood and the Jews run the news, all right? The liberal news media is run by the Jews. Hollywood is run by the Jews. And then you have immigration from other countries with people who don't have an Anglo heritage. They're coming in and breaking our immigration laws. And they're taking the jobs of young white male Americans. Do no wrong, so clean cut. Dirty his hand, it comes right off. Big hand slap to white male American. Not anymore, Eddie Vedder. Not anymore. They're disaffected. That's how the KKK got people to join in the 60s and 70s, by the way. Oh, they're busing people to your school, join the KKK. So you have immigrants taking blue-collar jobs away from white people, and you have black people taking blue-collar and white-collar jobs and college admission spots away from white people who had better grades because of affirmative action. So now white people can't get a fair shake, and they're frustrated. And do they find any comfort in women? No. Because now women are feminazis, to use the Rush Limbaugh term. Now women are all feminists. All they care about is having their own job and a career and aborting babies. And now you have men saying they're women. Everything's topsy-turvy. And it seems like there's a lot of unfairness out there of people trying to use DEI and critical race theory to control society. And now all your departments, this is me not just talking to stereotype, this is how it is. Departments of education are filled with woke liberals and homosexuals. That's how it is in Georgia, I know that. It's probably how it is where you are, or even worse. So the Department of Education, all right? So now you have this culture of people who are like, hey, you need to be a post-mill theonomist. We're all going to have our homeschool co-op, or we're going to be like Doug Wilson and make our own schools and universities. And we're going to have our own presses. We can't trust the liberal press, even the Christian liberal press. We're going to make our own thing like Canon Press or Joel Webbon's New Christian Right Press, okay? So Joel Webbon's going to get popular by being a Twitter shock jock. And he's going to get disaffected people too. And like the people who like Nick Fuentes, he's going to attract that audience by saying misogynistic, racist, and anti-Semitic things. Here's what you can't be and be successful as a pastor figure in the vineyard. Misogynistic, anti-Semitic, or racist. Do you know why? Because Pentecostalism is egalitarian and mixed. More so than any other Protestant churches, Pentecostal churches are mixed with black and whites. And some person might say, that's great, that's what heaven's going to look like. Well, if you're trying to attract Christian nationalist neo-Nazis, that doesn't work for you. Joel Webbon. If you're wanting to attract people, disaffected people, you know where to go? Ogden, Utah. You know what's a really safe, very white part of the country? Clean? Utah, except for Ogden. Ogden, I know this because my brother used to live in Utah. So Ogden, Utah is like the bad town in Utah. Utah and Idaho is smiling, blonde Mormon families, watching Little House on the Prairie and having Sunday dinner together, okay? Except for Ogden. Okay, that's where Eric Kahn and Suave went. You think that's not an accident, guys? Dale Partridge is not an accident, guys. So, Joel Webbon, he's a vineyard guy, right? Well, like I said, you can't be anti-Semitic in the vineyard because they're dispensationalism. Dispensational. Bob Dylan came out of the vineyard and he's a Jew. They got the Jews for Jesus out in California in the vineyard. The Jesus movement had the Jews for Jesus. There's all kinds of evangelical Jews out there involved in the vineyard. And there's lots of blacks. And there's lots of lady preachers because they're egalitarian. Can't be racist, misogynist, and anti-Semitic here, so he's got to move. So where did he move first? Well, he wanted to be a church planter with Acts 29. But guess what? Acts 29 is woke. But when he went to Acts 29, that's when it was real popular to trade doctrines like Pokemon cards, and it's real cool to be reformed. Okay? Well, now he's moved on for there, because listen, in the gig economy, you don't need Acts 29. You don't need a network anymore. You can make your own brand on Twitter. So now, he's a post-mill theonomist. Is that because that's his interpretation of the Bible? Or is that because that's where the racists are? Guys, Rushdoony. Google it. Kenism and Rushdoony racism are endemic to the post-millennial theonomy movement. You know who taught me that? Jordan Hall, when he was crushing theonomy and writing Embers of a Dying Fire and condemning theonomists and saying he destroyed theonomy. Back before now, he's partnered with a theonomist, a so-called theonomist who's traded doctrines like Pokemon cards. So you have Joel Webbon get on Twitter the other day and say, the women on here are retarded. And interracial marriage, God's against it. That's what he says. Whoever woman you're arguing with me about interracial marriage, that's retarded, and God's against interracial marriage. Does he really believe that? Well, just remember a few months ago when he was advertising the covenant dating, was it covenant marriage or covenant relationships? He was advertising an online Christian courtship service where you could get a wife from a foreign country. So he was fine with advertising interracial marriage before, but now he's against it. And he was a Vineyard member guy before, but now he's a misogynist, Jew hater, racist, right? So people get on there and they try to engage with Joel Webbon or debate Joel Webbon and say, hey, what about these doctrines? Guys, do you think Joel Webbon actually believes the Bible? Joel Webbon's as Christian as Stacy Keach is racist. In other words, not really. It's just a show. Okay? He's saying bombastic things, racist and misogynistic things, to attract a certain crowd of disaffected men. I got a buddy who calls them, he says they're incels. He has an incel church. Incel, the soft-handed, involuntary celibates. Okay? I don't know if Joel Webbon really thinks women are retarded. I don't know if Joel Webbon really thinks that interracial marriages are against God's design. I don't know if Joel Webbon really thinks the Jews are so bad. I can tell through observation that he's just trying to rile people up like a skinhead and get disaffected young men towards him. We should mark and avoid Joel Webbon. You take a man like Greg Locke. It's been obvious for a while that Greg Locke is an unqualified phony. Well, wait, Seth, Joel Webbon's website says he's Orthodox. Let's not forget the concept of website orthodoxy. If you read Andy Stanley's website and Stephen Furtick's website, it looks like they're Bible-believing Christians. But when you look at what they actually say and do, we see they don't really believe that. They're just website orthodox. So Joel Webbon said on his gas station church website says they believe the 1689. Well, golf clap. Look at his life. Look at him making these false racial pronouncements about God's preferences. He's a selfish, bombastic man, drawing attention to his podcast business. Mark and avoid. Young white conservative males are a disaffected demographic, and he is swooping in to make money off them. He couldn't do this in the Vineyard movement because Pentecostalism is racially integrated. That's why he traded doctrines like Pokemon cards to become a post-mill theonomist with its racist Rushdoony roots. So people don't need to be sitting around debating whether or not interracial marriage, whether Joel meant it was just a sin or against God's design, because it's a stupid discussion. He's just a Howard Stern Twitter shock jock. Listen, joking about blowjobs, that's another thing he did, and calling people retards and whatnot. That's who Joel Webbon is. And similarly, that's the Eric Kahn, Brian Suave guys. Like these guys, for as much as we give grief to the seminary people for being liberal, these are not like PhD, MDiv guys going and writing well-studied arguments. They're dropping bombs on Twitter so you'll support them on Patreon. All right? Mark and avoid them. Don't partner with them. Don't listen to them. And for goodness sake, you're going to have to protect people at your church from them. I go to a real small church, real small, because there's not a lot of Reformed Baptists in Cartersville. All right? And I'm sure there's more than there are at my church, but they don't want to go to some tiny church. All right? It wouldn't take but 4 or 5 guys joining my church who get into all this crap and get influenced by Eric Kahn, Brian Suave, Joel Webbon, and the Apologia people, Jeff Durbin, or Doug Wilson and his CREC, to really mess up my church. Watch out for these fake, racist, bombastic, paper pastor, gas station church entrepreneurs. Mark and avoid them. Don't spend your time trying to debate them as if they are real true Christians. If they really mean well. Well, Joel, let's talk about this. Let's break down what he meant. No, when you see a snake, when you're gardening and you see a snake in the garden, take your shovel and chop its head off. You don't ask the snake, what's your business here? Thanks for listening to the Christian Commute. Find the post-mill people. Find the theonomist people. If they're in your church, correct them. If they won't be correct them, get them the heck out of your church. And get them the heck out of your youth group's Twitter feed. And avoid the New Christian Right press like the plague. And if it appeals to you, ask yourself, why does the thing that appeals to misogynist, anti-Semite racists appeal to me? And check your heart. Thanks for listening to The Christian Commute. Lord willing, I'll be back with you again tomorrow. Lord willing, I can get this up on Pulpit and Pen. As always, God bless. And then always, oh, there's my dog. And she's black, so you know I'm not racist. Lord willing, I'll be back with you again tomorrow. As always, God bless. And as always, remember, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved.